Heavenly Father, we are grateful for the opportunity to join together once again to take care of the town's business. We ask God that you continue to bless us with wisdom and patience. We ask God also that those that are on their way, that you provide them traveling mercies. We ask, Lord, these things as always, that you take care of our servicemen and women wherever they may serve, our first responders and all of our town employees. We ask God a special blessing on the families that were affected by the shooting here on Main Street earlier today. Yes. Bless them in a mighty special way with comfort, God. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Let's stand, pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any questions? Well, we're going to cover the fire department, so I don't know if there's any department reports we have to deal with. Old business, consider approval of Amendment 1 to the contract Triangle J of Government. Fred.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. You have before you the amendment number 1 to the contract with the Triangle J Council of Governments on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Department in Aaron's absence. The contract was executed starting January 1st of this year, and this is to amend it as we see that we've had a rush with some more projects than were originally anticipated, and so we were asking for an increase for an additional 10 to 15 hours per week for the weeks of January 10, 17, 24 at a rate of 50 per hour. We also have, this will be included in the invoice at the end of, for the end of the month of January, and should you approve, we would certainly be able to take care of Triangle J's staff the way they should be.
Well, I've had a number of people call about the concern about the planning department. And I think this will go a long ways in filling in the holes that has been indicated. Any questions of Fred? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
When are we expecting Aaron back?
Ken, is that about mid-March?
She's going to be gone 12 weeks.
Yeah, March.
Should be about mid-March, Commissioner.
I make a motion that we approve.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. New business, Fire Department 2021 year-end presentation. Alan Johnson.
That's me. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board. Got a couple different things to present, our year-end presentation, and then following that, I'm going to go over our ISO rating that we got back in June. So just like to start out again saying, thank y'all for having me. I know each year I try to go over the numbers just so you can see where we're at, and what's a little bit of what's going on down at the fire department. So the first slide here tells 12 years worth of call history. So this past year we were 1,175 calls. We had 563 fire calls and 612 first responder calls. As you can see, back down to 2016, that was the first year we hit 1,000. So in the last 6 years, we were a little under last year on kind of COVID. We didn't get dispatched out to all the calls. They cut us out from going to some first responder calls for a couple of months. But since we ever hit 1,000, so the last 6 years, we're averaging 1,128 calls a year. So you can see, I keep that 2010 in there because we were 555 calls then. So in 12 years, I mean, you can see where we come from and then where we're at now.
Alan, in 2016, what do you think it caused that to increase dramatically from the 6 years before?
I'd have to go back and really look and pull the data and see. As you can see, we're inching up to the, getting to the 1,000 mark. May have had a couple of storms that year. Matthew was was Matthew in 16? So Matthew was in 16, so that was, accounted for probably 20, 25 calls extra. I was thinking it was 17 for some reason, but 16, it was 16. So just as things progress, all the new houses getting built, and there'll be a breakdown of the different calls here in a few minutes. Do you have a question? I saw you looking at, okay. Okay. So this is just a breakdown of different type of calls, just to highlight on a couple of them. As you can see them, so the medical calls were 612. Motor vehicle accidents were 126. Smoke alarms, fire alarms, it was 69. So as you think, a lot of the newer houses are getting built. This microphone sounds weird. But a lot of newer houses are getting built. Everybody's putting in a fire alarm, and that's just more false activations, more calls. We had 61 code blues. Structure fires, 29. That was ours and mutual aid. Lockouts, 23. Lockouts where either a dog or a person was locked in the vehicle, and we had to go get them out. So again, and then you can see it right on down where it's at. So 1,175 calls. So I know I've told this in the past, but if somebody calls 911, they expect somebody to go. So if it don't fit the police, or if there's somebody sick, which you can see we go on a lot of sick calls too, they got to send somebody, and they pick on us and send us for all the other different calls. So like I say, that's just a breakdown of those. Calls kind of broke out Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I called for 36% of the fire calls Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 35% of the first responder calls are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then so about a third of the calls is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and the rest of them is at nights and weekends. There at the bottom it says break down the calls, so 722 of them were in town, and then 453 of them were out of town. Testing. Never got to be close to it. It sounds better. So 722 were in town, and then the 453 were out of town. So most of our calls are in town. All right, man hours on calls for the year, 4,216. That's a lot. Training is equally as a lot, 45, actually more training hours than we were on calls, 4,527. That's just everybody's hours added together. All right, this one here tells our response time data that a lot of people's interested in. So for 1,175 calls, our fire district is 27, just a tad over 27 square miles. That includes obviously the town, Johnson County District, Harnett County District, all that. And also includes the annexations as well. So during the day, I say it time and time again, when we're at the station, we're good as anybody. 5 minutes, 14 seconds is our average from first dispatch to arriving on the scene. Weeknights is 7 minutes, 2 seconds, and then the average from dispatch to arriving on calls on the weekend is 7 minutes, 5 seconds. So a total average altogether, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. We had 166 overlapping calls, meaning we was on a call when we got dispatched out to another call. So that's just the overlapping calls. And that's what this next slide shows, is a breakdown of the last 12 years of the overlapping calls, with averaging in the last 6 years, almost 13% of the time, we're on the call when we get dispatched out to another call. All right, mutual aid response. So we responded to 132 mutual aid calls, and that was average response time 12 minutes 7 seconds. You can see on the right where we went to when. So 39 of those was done, 30 Blackman's Crossroads, and it goes right on down to our tanker task force for Cleveland. We went to them twice. We requested mutual aid 29 times for whatever, whatever the reasons. So that's just a little data on that. That's kind of the simplified into the year-end report as far as percentages and numbers. And if you got any questions on that, I'll be glad to try to answer them. Moving on. You good, Mayor, to move on? All right. This one here, y'all seen it before, which I'm glad to say that I can keep adding to it. Our last grant, our 2020 grant, which was awarded last year, was to replace some air packs with. So we added to that. So in the last, since 2009, we've got right at $1.3 million in grants for the fire department and the citizens of Benson and our district. And it's costed us and the taxpayers $102,265. So at the end of the day, I feel very blessed to be able to get grants and do things with that money that, we wouldn't be able to do. So that's always good news for that. All right. So as y'all know, you've heard me talk about this past year, we got our ISO rating. So here's just a breakdown of the rating in the past. Back to 94 when we were 7. 95 we went to a 6. 96 we went to a 5. And that was all through ISO. Department of Insurance took over in 98. We had several 90 inspections. In 2015, that was a good year. we got graded and went down to a 4. Had another 9S inspection, and then this past year we got regraded in June. The Commissioner Mike Causey come out October 25th and presented us with a new grade, which is a Class 2, and that takes effect February 1st. So that takes effect Tuesday, and that was the purpose of coming today and talking about this, just because it's so just refreshing everybody's mind and let them know that this new grade is coming. So it should, the ones that's going to help, and I'll go over that in just a minute on the insurance premiums. So this is the letter that Mike Causey gave us. So now we're a straight 2 in our district. We were a split grade. It's still showing a split grade, but I want to explain that just a second. Right now, if you're within 5 miles of the fire station, we're 2. It was, as long as you was within 1,000 foot of a hydrant, you were 4. And then if not, you were 9. So now we're straight 2. However, if you're over 5 miles from the station, then you go to a 9. And where that will come in at, right now 4.8 miles is the furthest district we have from our fire station currently. But if somebody went out, say the Allen's Crossroads Road, and put in a 100-house subdivision, and that road extends half a mile in the subdivision, and that's going to put it over the 5 miles. So then at that point, over the 5 miles, that's where that 9E is going to come into play. So right now we don't have no 9E at all, but they always tag that on there just in case, because that's always a possibility.
I don't want to jump ahead of what's.
Yes, sir.
But on this insurance commissioner being here and February 1st, we're going to have a new rating.
Mm-hmm.
Why is residential not included in that?
Okay, I'll get to that in just a minute. But I can go ahead and answer it. So the residential, I'll go ahead and try to explain that. So the residential, where I said that if you were over 1,000 foot from a fire hydrant on our rating before, if you were over 1,000 foot from a hydrant, then you were a 9 before. So me, where I live, I'm not within 1,000 foot of a hydrant, so I was a 9. So by us doing the straight grading, yeah, and some of you were there and you saw us do the fire site setup with the tanker task force agreement that we have nowadays. So that's why we were able to get the straight rating. Insurance premiums for residential, anything lower than a 5, they say that it don't really affect the residential folks. In this case, if you were like myself, have been paying a 9 for it, then it's going to help you. So it's going to be you figure out in our Banner district, not in town, anybody that's not within 1,000 foot of a hydrant, it is going to help them. But the average person in town won't see it because they've already seen it in years past. Anything lower than about a 5 affects mainly the commercial and the businesses.
Jerry, 5 years ago, we went from a 7 to a 5. And residential, I got a big decrease in my insurance.
They got theirs then.
A big decrease. This time, this is one of the best economic development tools that we've got going. Industry is going to look at this as they can't believe that we're a 2. It's going to help them. It will help you a little bit. It dropped my premium as of this week on my home, $11. Okay, my insurance company has already given me that, but it's going to affect
Commercial and industry
commercial between 7 and 9% decrease. Anytime the Department of Insurance drops a rate from 9 to a 5. 5 is the big thing. That's where you get all the big money that they cut your insurance premiums. From a 5 to a 2, they've already looked at, well, y'all got a 5. There's not that much difference between a 5 and a 2, but it is for industry.
Yeah, on the residential side.
Looks, if PGI was coming right now, or Rooms to Go was coming, and they look at the fire rating as far as where they're coming and what they're going to be paying. So from day one, they look at that 2 for a volunteer department, a small town department, almost unheard of. There's not but 50-something 2s in the whole state. And most of them, the city of Charlotte and Raleigh and the big cities that have all the equipment. Some of the insurance companies that are not aware of just what it took to get a 2 from a 5, it took 2 years of hard work for everybody in the town to change hydrants, water flow. And this guy didn't play no games when he came down. He said, show me what you got and then get out of the way. And you couldn't tell him, well, we do this. He didn't want to see it. He wanted to see the records.
Yeah, it goes back 3 years.
We have to keep those records and keep the staff and keep the hydrants and the water flow. We have to keep that to keep this too.
Who is the theys that decide what the rates are going to be?
Who is the theys? It's Department of Insurance.
In other words, you say we didn't get any benefit from the 2 because we were 5 and that's where we're going to stay. Who decides?
We got some benefit, but that's on the state level.
Yeah, and the insurance, the insurance commission.
And that is the head of the department that came down that you, Fred, everybody came over to the fire department and met, and he awarded us that. But it didn't go into effect until February the 1st.
So it's
they're the ones that decide.
It's through the insurance commission somehow, and what differentiates that. Now I can say, if you own the insurance company and you really wanted to get competitive and get somebody's business, I mean you could. There's nothing saying I'm sure that you can't go lower, but that's just in general where in every class and everything I've took, just kind of where the break is for residential.
Okay.
But it really makes a big difference on the commercial side. So just going on through this, so for the Office of State Fire Marshal for the Public Protection Class Program, evaluates communities according to a uniform set of criteria. So because we're volunteer and because Raleigh's 100% paid, they hold us to the same level. It's no, because you're this, you do this, and they're that. It's all uniform. It's all the same thing. So they recognize standard developed by NFPA, which is kind of our code book, if you will, and then the American Water Works. So we're graded on 4 different categories. So needed fire flows. 2015, our fire flow was 3,500 with a 3-engine need. That dropped this time to 3,000 gallons with a 3-engine need still. So why, some people say, why have you got 3 engines sitting in the fire station? I mean, it's not because anything other than this says we have to have 3 engines. The reason for the drop is they took out all poultry houses. Now, it ain't never made no sense to me why a poultry house on the farm would affect this, but it did. But sometime since 2015, they took out all poultry houses. Hog houses are still in it, but they took out the poultry house. And the poultry house is what put us at the 3,500 gallon minute GPM. So now we're 3,000. Because we had 12 of them. But again, they took those out. So communications is the other. Fire department, that's the big one. That's the big one we have control over. And water supply. So our communications scored 10 points out of 10. As Commissioner Causey said, we're as good as anybody in the state. I don't know how many other ones are scored a perfect 10, but Johnson County did. So they did score 9.6, so they were pretty well back in 2015. Let me get to that slide. But now they scored the whole 10. Again, we have zero control over that. That's all on them. So the fire department. The fire department makes up 50 points. So that's half of the 100. So that's what we can control. All right. So this first one here, in 2015 we got 6 points. This time we got 4. This is a question I'm going to ask sometime. I feel like that should still be 6. We got 3 engines and they're all fully equipped. I see no reason for it not to be the whole 6 points. It's not a game changer for us. We already got to a 2, so I don't want to push the apple cart too hard right now. But I mean, I'm going to inquire about it and see what they say. The next one is reserve engine. We had a reserve engine in 2015, the one that we give Garland. It was still in the station, so they counted that. We don't have a fourth engine, but we don't have a reserve engine this time, so we got 0. Pump capacity, we maxed out. So credit for a ladder and service. Now, obviously, we don't have a ladder truck. We have a need for one, but we got a service truck. In 2015, we had a little service truck, and then we got the big one, and you can see that made up some points. So that was a good investment to help get us some points. We don't have a reserve. In 2015, we didn't have a reserve, but our little truck, the last truck we bought, he gave us credit for what he could on that. So we didn't quite max out on the reserve credit for it because we didn't have no ladders on it, more or less. We didn't have all the equipment on it that it needs. Credit for deployment analysis, we increased a whole point over that. We're still a long ways from the max, but that gets your personnel out the door and on the scene. So that's somewhere where we can continue to work on. The next one was a big jump for us. Credit for company personnel. In 2015, they only accounted for Benson people. Sometime since then, they went in and added your automatic mutual aid people. So that since we could count our automatic mutual aid, that brought our score up, 7.5 points. So that was a pretty good lick for that. Internally, we've done some things where we added an extra department on different criteria calls, structure fire calls, even on, say, the big industries, we added an additional ladder truck. So we just done some things internal to help this out, and it shows. Credit for training, we dropped just a tad on that. Mainly I feel like that come from the facility training. We don't have a facility at the fire department. That's something that I'm trying to find a grant for now to help us with that, get that established. That's for what few hours that they require you to do at a facility. It's weighted really heavy. It's 3 whole points of that 9. And that's about the biggest drop that we had, or the biggest deficiency that we had in getting the people having to go to JCC to do the training for all the hours that are required. Credit for operational consideration, that's where they look at our SOGs and see that, you know, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So
Alan,
overall, we gained 8 points in this section, sir.
On the credit for training,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're talking about putting a training facility here. Has the county fire departments considered putting a facility somewhere in the county?
So there's one at JCC, and Archer's Lodge has one. Is the two that we have in Johnston County now. So what a facility, what their definition of a facility is a burn building and then that's 3 stories tall. So that's their definition. And again, I mean, we got the land behind, that's where we put the fence up at. We got the space, and that's what we bought the Connex box for a burn cell. So we got partial credit, but we ain't got the elevated one. So we have to have 3 stories, a 3-story building to go with the burn box.
Jerry, that's what we discussed 2 weeks ago when, over in Harnett County, when I was with, Alan,
Harnett
He
County
said-
don't have anything right
They
now.
what?
I said Harnett County don't have anything, and they
Yeah,
were looking
but-
at it too.
But they were implying that we had the perfect, we're on this end of the county, and the county would be looking at us because we've got 10 departments that would come down here to our facility, and it wouldn't be that much. And the monies that they have got, that's not earmarked for anything, it's, if we had the plans for it right now, we could submit it to our senator and probably have something, I would say the way they were talking, within 30 days. If we had that, we may be looking at $6-7 million, and the building that we're talking about getting tore down, it could be a part of that. The whole thing could just work in, but we've got to have an idea, and it's got to be down because there's so much money that's going to hit, and the ones that have got something in place are going to get these funds, and the ones that don't are not going to get anything.
That's true.
So ideally, I would like to get a facility. I mean, if we can get a grant to pay for it, and then I think, not trying to put any words in the county's mouth, but maybe get the county, as in inviting, well, like we were saying, like the southern end of the county departments to come, then maybe the county would give us some funds to keep it upfitted every year or something like that. That's my vision. All right, so water supply is the next one. That accounts for 40% of the grade. 33% of these points is, we really don't have much control over them. You can see on the breakdown, 2015, we earned 20 points, this time 23.7. Those extra points come from back in 15 when we done our phase 1 and 2 water lines. About 2017, 18, we added some hydrants around town in some places we didn't have many. And then they give us credit for a couple of the pump stations that they didn't give us credit for before. So that's where those extra points come up. So between those 3.5 points there, extra, and the credit for the mutual aid personnel, that was a whole 10 points. So that brought our grade up a whole point just with that by itself. So that was good.
Does it hurt us if we buy water from somebody else?
No, and I'll go over that in just a second. Let me go over it now. So the water supply system. So we are blessed, I guess you would say, with water. I don't know no other department around us. So we got the town of Benson water, and I ain't talking about just town of Benson. I'm talking about our fire district. So town of Benson water system, the Harnett County water system, Dunn water system, and then Johnston County water system. So we got 4 different water systems. And Tim and Ray, they had to come and fill out paperwork to submit to the inspector. Well, it was like the design of the system, how everything flowed, where the water come from, and how it went. So by them doing that, and I guess you must have added them pumps in there that they didn't give us credit for before, and then that showed the need, or you know, like I say, they found them. But again, that's all 4 water systems in our district, so they had to grade each one of them individually, just like that. So all that's considered. So hydrants, we're only about 75% covered in hydrants. I mean, we're 100% covered per se in town, but, you know, obviously in our county district, we're not. So we didn't get full credit for that, credit for inspection. And flow testing, I think we got cheated a little bit. We're hiring, we were in 15, but if you ask some of the guys that work down there, they think we ought to get all of them. Because we do the annual test on them every year, and then the flow test every 5. But overall, we gained about 4 points on the water supply system. So at the end of the day, that was a plus too. Very good. The divergence, I don't know why this one ended up like that, but anyway, divergence is one of those things that factor in and reduces the score based upon the difference between the fire department and the water supply scores. It's one of them hidden factors they got in there that nobody can answer. It just spits out something. So we did better than we did in 15, so that's a positive way. So I'm good with that one too. So community risk is like extra credit. They added this. This was added in there in 15 because we got a score. But we still improved in each one of them better than in 15, so that was good. So the credit for the fire prevention and code enforcement, that's going out, doing the fire inspections. You know, he come in, he looked at all that. So that's credit for that. The credit for our public safety education, where we go out to the schools, or they come to us. And then credit for investigations for the program. We max out on that. The county kind of handles all that. And for each of these, you got to include your training. You got to have all the proper training. So again, we upped about 1.5 points there. So where did we shake out at in the end? We were between scoring 80 and 89 points, and that puts us in the 2 category, which again is pretty remarkable to me. I told y'all I was looking for a straight 4. You know, in my mind, I was thinking we stood a pretty good chance to get a 3. So we've done better than that. So that's good. We wound up with that 05 is supposed to be 105. I apologize for that. But we wound up scoring 81, a little over 81 points. So that's kind of a weak 2. But in those other areas I was talking about, we still got a little bit of room for improvement to make it a stronger 2. So what does this mean for Benson? And I know we've done touched on a couple of these. Number one, the town, the community, and y'all should be very proud, as I am, because it's a great day for us. The average residents, town residents, won't be affected, and I know we done talked about that. The ones out in the county that's over 1,000 foot from a hydrant will. And of course, what we talked about, the commercial industry and businesses should be the ones seeing the difference, the significant difference in the insurance premium. Max, you check on that and let me know sometime. I don't know that these insurance companies on their own is going to come and say, hey, y'all too, we're going to go ahead and reduce it. I would personally make a phone call and say, hey, you know, our fire department's been re-rated and the grade changes February 1st. See what they say.
Alan, I checked on that, and it comes down from the state. It will, for what zone that we're in, and it will be automatic. But like I've told some of the people around that has businesses, call.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
There's a lot of them independent. I've checked with some of them from Farm Bureau and State Farm and some of these others. Everybody looks at it a little different.
Right, that's right. I get phone calls weekly at the fire station from different departments. I mean, you say Benson address, you're talking about West Johnson, some elevation, 5210. So maybe a quarter of the calls is for us. Most of it's for West Johnson, 5210 and elevation. But they're calling because it's a Benson address, so they're calling us saying, hey, what's the classification? Are they within 1,000 foot of a hydrant? All that. Now 1,000 foot of a hydrant don't matter. But I asked one lady one day, I said, now what? I said, what difference does it make? Why? I mean, I said, why does 1,000 foot from a hydrant, what difference does it make? Well, that's how much hose you carry on a truck. I said, well, no, ma'am, my first out truck carries 1,500 foot, so why ain't it 1,500 foot? Well, I don't know that. So, I don't know, that's just, you know, what they presume to. So, but again, we're straight rating now, so that ain't gonna matter. So, as Mr. Chairman said a while ago, I feel we need to use this as an economic tool for recruiting industries and businesses. Anybody looking to come. And I can't tell you the name of no business. I've just heard them say that in time, if anybody was hired than a 4, you know, they wouldn't come at all. I mean, if you had a grade higher than a 4, they wouldn't come. So this should help them with their insurance, and it should give them some incentive to come and build or have something in our area. So our work is not done, and that's something that in my report you see me in there. We've been working on that. I mean, the way I see it, we hit a home run, for the ball game, and we've celebrated, and it's a great time. And I hope y'all are excited about it as I am. But we got another game coming in less than about 4 years now, so it's never ending. We got to keep preparing. And as always, y'all have heard me say that our volunteers are our greatest asset. I mean, there's 4 of us there during the day, and we can handle, a lot of the calls, a lot of things during the day, but the volunteers work that. We cannot get by without them. So if you get a chance sometime, thank them, because they're the ones that's putting in the training hours, making the calls, making it happen. And without them, I mean, we'd really be in trouble, I'm telling you. And I don't think we're working on our needs to get the staff in there, but that's just that's just a little bit. That's not a whole lot. All right. So that I found that online right there, that too. That kind of just added that to the slideshow there, like I say. Got any questions on any of that? There is a 1. I mean, like Cary, Raleigh. I know Apex this past year become a 1, and I think they were the smallest department in the state. I don't know how many states. I won't say they got 4 stations. I'm not 100% sure. I won't say they're the smallest department that had received a 1. But there is some 1s. But, to get there, we got to make up 10 points. So I just like to say thank you. I know I come to y'all and say we need this, we need that. It's not all about wants and wishes. I mean, I've got a plan, and I hope you can kind of see where things have worked out in our favor on this. Whether it be a truck or a piece of equipment. I mean, it's just what the things that we need. And just, y'all always support us. We might didn't get it right that night. We might have to come back and do some more homework and bring it back to you. So.
Well, looking over your report, I certainly would like to congratulate you. Anytime we are improving, that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
And certainly it's improved. And I do know we got some of the best looking fire trucks I've seen anywhere around.
We are very blessed. We've come a long way since my time. Now, Will's been here twice as long as I have, but we've come a long ways. We do. And that's something that the guys and girls down there should be proud of.
Yes.
Between not only the trucks, but our equipment and stuff like that.
Well, they show up in the parade. They be looking good.
Well, we appreciate what you do most of all, but and all the people that work with you. I know you've got a lot of folks around you. So.
Yeah. There's about 40 of us.
I will say something to you, Jerry. You asked a question as far as the different years and the amount of calls. COVID took a lot of calls away. We did 981 calls the year of COVID, and that was down 250, 300. People stayed at home. Now,
and some of them were scared to go to the hospital. I mean, they didn't even call. Yeah.
COVID is a big part of this 2021 because we're going on more and more COVID calls, difficulty breathing and stuff. Now, you can circle this 2021, and probably in 2023, this 1175 would probably be 1,500 due to the
95.
interstate. Interstate 95, the widening of the interstate, you go into Harnett County where they're experiencing it. They are going to 2 and 3 wrecks on 95 every single day. You put the California barriers up and people go crazy. They don't slow down, and they've got special records right now that if we have a wreck, they've got How long to respond?
They got to be on the scene within 20 minutes, 100% of the time.
And that's just really unheard of. We've always been on rotation, but these call volumes are gonna go up, and it's gonna take more equipment, and it's gonna take probably more manpower, because our biggest problem is, at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, having drivers, and you've got to have, everybody can't drive a truck, especially out on the interstate.
You know, at one time you were talking about collecting money from these people that cause wrecks out on interstate roads.
We still do.
Are you able to collect some of that money?
Yeah.
We collect a lot.
Yeah.
We bill every, transfer truck, all this other stuff, when we're tied up. He's got a chart, and, it's all, that's part of the paperwork that made us a class 2 too. They look at everything.
Overall, it's down, but it's getting harder and harder to collect from these insurance companies. Unless it's something hazmat related, if 2 cars have a wreck and nobody don't get transported, most of the time we find they're not paying now. Used to, they did. But we're still getting money in. It's not as much as it used to be, but I'd say in the last 5 years, we've averaged $8,000 a year maybe. And I've got a complete running total of it until broke down in each physical year along with the total at the end.
Any amount's good.
Oh, yeah, because look, the interstate traffic, I mean, this most 95% of the ones that wreck out there are not from around here, so they don't pay no taxes. And we don't get anything supplemented from nobody that help cover it. So.
Anybody else have a question?
Nobody else around's got 2 interstates, 95 and 4.
Okay, Fred.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief. I'll add my congratulations to the Chief and those that assisted in that inspection. Mighty proud of all of you. Commissioners, Mayor, you have before you the January 11th manager's report, bringing it to you in this format as I was asked to do. And we'll start out with our personnel and public safety. At the time this was written, we had 13 vacant slots. That has fluctuated a little bit. And our most forward-facing positions, those being our customer service representatives, we have 2 young ladies up front that are really batting 1,000, is it? Forgetting my baseball. Our staffing levels and ability to deliver services, I want to read bullet number 2, because this is important for us. And our ability to deliver services may be impacted negatively due to the pandemic and our inability to attract new talent and employees choosing to hire on with other towns. So this is going to be a significant consideration for our next fiscal year's budget planning. We resumed a little bit of discussion with department heads regarding our building a career progression plan for our employees to make it even more attractive for people to come and to stay. And this process is still going to take us some time. We want to be deliberate in that. And based on that progress, you might see some increased staffing levels that are coming in for your consideration during our next budget discussions. The status of current projects, only a few listed here. We have the field house has been completed. Took a tour of that facility a few days ago. It is immaculate. It is a wonderful addition to that area there. We look forward to putting it to work. The Public Works building, and please stop me if you have any questions. Public Works building, the innards, as I call them, are beginning to take shape. That project had been impacted some by materials shortages, et cetera. We still have a date of the end of this month for them to come out of there, but then it will take quite a bit of time to finish upfitting and to get Public Works and electric moved in there. Tim, is there anything, or Kim, is there anything that I need to add to that item in particular? All right, thank you. We have various subdivisions in the early stages of development. Planning and zoning department is being covered by TG Cog, as you're well aware, in Aaron's absence, and they're learning Benson and doing fairly well. The Mingo sewer project is well underway. Engineering, analysis, and application for grants with or without matching funds is progressing. We've heard some good news from our grant writer and administrator on that during the course of this week, and it's moving along very well. That, of course, was to support the southern end of town, and especially Berry Global and other economic development going on in that area with the support that they need, especially with wastewater. Our community contacts and concerns. I do field quite a few complaints at my desk, but that's part of why I'm there, of course. And one of them was about burning in town, and I came to learn that that little slab of land over there was not in town when I thought that it was. However, Chief Johnson was on top of that, and he was making sure that they were doing everything they needed to do as he permitted them to do. There was a sharp dip at East Hill and North Lee. That one was straightened out. Tim got the guys back on that, and we haven't had any concerns about that since they flattened that dip out a little bit. The noise level is still an issue at East Hill and North Johnson at the church there. The landlord had responded to us at one point, and we continue to follow up on what's going on over there by way of police responding to calls. Also, as you had directed last meeting, Ike and Chief Percy are collaborating on trying to work on that issue. You might think that it's kind of a sticky issue, and it is. But we'll see what we can work through on that. For our COVID-19 update, we have, during the last week, on average, about 6 to 8 people out, either exposed or actually with the disease. It's affected our team some, but our folks are working well through that. However, it is a stretch when you consider that we're already short-staffed in some of our areas, and we're certainly experiencing some issues there. It might take us a little bit longer to get to places to fix things, but our teams are doing very well there. I have a bullet here about OSHA's guidelines for businesses employing over 100 employees and how we were to adhere to certain guidelines according to OSHA. But understand that the mandate that the president had put out has been withdrawn, and so we're not worrying about that anymore. That is a non-issue, thank God. As far as economic development, our Electric Cities Commercial Industrial Site Assist team has tried to meet with us on at least 3 occasions since November, but between COVID and other considerations, they've had to cancel with us, but we look forward still to getting in touch with Carl Reese and others of their office to look at our sites again and see where we are these days. As I'd share with them, at least one property has sold and changed owners since they first looked at it last year, but we're still on track there as far as I can tell.
We're still on track with what, Fred?
With Electric Cities has a commercial industrial site assist where they work with the towns to to elevate those properties for economic development, such that they would be accredited and have certain information that we post out at various sites.
And who sits on that board?
No, it's not a board. This is with Electric Cities.
Yeah, I understand, but haven't we got representatives still with Electric Cities that?
Oh, yes, on our Economic Development Commission. I think, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, who's on that?
There are about 10 individuals on that, including the mayor, myself, the chamber. We have Dr. Max, excuse me. We have Chris Johnson and Carl Reese and Jennings Gray from Electric Cities, Hampton and Whittington. Kim and Aaron sit on that board
So
with us, and we've asked.
How often have y'all met, Max?
If we've met lately, I missed it.
No, we haven't met since September, and that's been based on many reasons, as we deal with COVID and other considerations as well.
I thought we had to have somebody one person that sat on the, I know Matt Zapp used to be the person on that.
Oh, it's so,
No,
Well, you're talking about two different things, I think.
Hampton and Whittington has been on there for years.
Yeah.
Representing Benson.
Mhm.
Are you talking about Nakemba?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
I'm
that's
talking
what I'm
about
thinking.
Nakemba.
Nakemba, he's the head, I'm the backup. On the rate committee, I'm the head, Glenn's the backup, for electricity board.
Yeah.
But
So-
for the actual
So
board.
Glenn was the backup.
Do what now?
Glenn,
No, I'm the for the actual board meetings, Fred's the first seat and I'm the backup. And then
okay.
there's a separate section that we have for the rate committee meetings, and then I'm the head seat on that, and Glenn is my backup. And when Glenn, his last official day is Monday, when that happens, I'll send paperwork in, probably make Tim the backup, since he's the utilities director now for that department, so. But
And-
that's the rate committee, that's how we determine what
Okay,
the rate's
how-
gonna be.
That's fine. How often does that committee meet as far as rates?
We meet about once a quarter. We just actually met last week for the rate.
Okay.
And then the board met this week. They met yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
The camper.
So
But-
that's the first time they've met since. Has COVID
No,
put that on the back burner too?
No. What he's talking about is the economic development.
Yeah.
meetings. That's what we haven't had since September.
Right.
The, Nakemba board meetings have been, consistent, and they've been virtual through COVID.
But the economic development meeting is not put on by Electric Cities.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
No, we're
See,
talking about
that's
three
where
different.
Yeah, you were talking about Electric Cities, and then I didn't understand, I knew what, Hampton and Whittington said on.
Yes.
And the others, because they were running the same thing when I was here before.
Yeah. So Commissioner, I
We
think
just
what
don't
we've
get a
done,
lot from it.
we're mixing up three different entities. Our Economic Development Commission is local, that's here for Benson. Our NECAMPA is with Electric Cities, and all of the other member cities participate in that, as well as the Electric Cities Economic Development Arm that is helping us with elevating various properties around town. They selected 4 that they thought would elevate and really perk well for folks looking to bring commercial or industrial business to Benson. And so that's where we are. Those were 3 different entities we were talking about. And
Did you
I'm
get-
sorry if I mixed you up on that.
Did you get the website updated on the one?
The website has been updated. There were 3 properties that needed to be deleted, and Tyler helped me with that. He did a very good job. So moving along, then, we have our comprehensive land use plan that was approved. Since you've seen this, our load management switch removal is still ongoing. There's about 200 left to remove. And Crystal is working closely with NextGrid, Birds Electric, and the management team to remove load management switches per the board's approval. Our American Rescue Plan, we continue to monitor fund availability and rules for reporting use of funds before incurring any costs for projects.
Hold on just a minute, Fred, back
Sure.
up. I asked last meeting, where are we with NextGrid? Okay,
NextGrid is good in terms of our AMI. But it's the load management switches that were burning up in people's houses, and we had that approved by the board for us to remove those. Was your question about them, the alerts
Okay.
issues?
Yeah, uh-huh. Isn't that next grid? That doesn't have anything to do with the boards that are burning up.
Has nothing to do with what? I didn't hear the last part.
The
Load management switches?
Yeah,
No, they're
No.
different, but
so, are we good with next grid or are we not? We're still up in the air with them.
I think we're fairly good. As far as I can tell,
Who would know?
Crystal would know for sure. But as far as I can tell, we're good with
Next
AMI.
grid is really provides all the modules for the AMI system.
Yeah,
What we're talking about here, that was the original thing we voted on.
Mhm.
But then it came back and decided to put load management switches on to help to save money, and we had electric cities that were doing the monitoring. But there was so much problems. The way it was put in, they had Tom, Dick, and Harry in the state putting them in, and we've replaced air conditioners and heaters, hot water heaters. People get ready to go to church on Sunday, and the hot water heater didn't work because the switch kicked it off. And so it just looked at all the things they were doing and brought it to the board, and they said, let's get rid of it. That's what we're doing.
So they, Jimmy and Virgin Electric and Crystal have been working diligently on removing those. And again, they're down to a couple of hundred of those. And I think everybody would be glad to see them all gone at this point. They got to be quite expensive for the town. Unless there are any questions, commissioners, finish with my report.
Even though, they've been a bad soul, probably if it hadn't been for Jimmy Barber, they'd be out of business now, because he really has, over the last few years, taken the problems and have gotten them solved. And the last conversation I had with him in the hall was that he had only a handful of units that weren't reading the way they were supposed to. So I think the system, the way it's working now, and the modules that we're getting from them, I think are good for the most part.
So you say we don't have but a handful right here in Benson that they're not reading that.
That's what he said.
Yes.
That's who?
That's Jimmy. Works with
He's our
Crystal.
part-timer.
He's our part-time
He's
staff.
a part-timer.
He's been here for a while. He came from Duke.
Uh-huh.
He's been here since I've been here. And he comes in Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and him and Crystal, he moves modules and Echo Nets and Zigbees and all that stuff. He's really the one that made the system work.
Okay, and what happens to the system? He's retired from Duke and he's working with us part-time. What happens to him?
Currently, Tim is working on a plan to have Ray and Hunter cross-train and learn his role. So, of course, Ray's been here a while as well. Hunter's the new guy. And so both of them are learning what Jimmy knows about the system with Echo One. They also do locates and stuff for 411. So we're working on getting everybody cross-trained.
Tim, how big is the handful?
The handful's probably a dozen or so. It's
That
not,
ain't bad.
but there's been a good bit of investment in using different types of antennas and stuff like that to get it working. And it's been a lot of work from Jimmy to sort of trial and error our way to a working system. So, it's functioning much better than it did in the past, and it's took implementing.
Well, good. So both times that it's happened to me, that's just part of the handful.
Well, yours is a little different.
Yours
Oh, okay.
Here's the situation.
All right.
Yours is the algorithm that it uses for leak detectors. As far as your laundromat is concerned, it doesn't, the algorithm is the same whether it's residential or commercial, and it fits better for residential. So, I don't know how to best explain it. It's not, in a perfect world,
In a situation, say you're a laundromat, it's a perfect example of a user that consistently uses water, and larger volumes of water, it's difficult to identify a threshold that would send us an alert. If it's a home, there's a volume of water that we make an assumption is a reasonable amount for a home, and if it exceeds that, it tells us. When you get into commercial applications, it's really hard to pinpoint what is a high use versus what is a normal use. The laundromat, for example, is using water throughout the day.
That's right, but it shuts down at 10 o'clock, and I don't have anything until 7 o'clock the next morning. And I was a big supporter of all of this. I was a big supporter of NextGrid because I thought we were going with the cheapest and not doing enough research about it when I was sitting up here, and that found that that's true. But this is, I just want to know, a handful is one thing, 50, 60, if we need to be looking something else, it's something else.
We getting some different types of technology implemented into the system.
Well, you know, I sat on this board and I pushed to go to these, and I pushed a lot of people. What did we have at Nathan B. Blackman's house when I was sitting up here? We had a commode that was running. We had the same thing with the Johnsons and about everybody else in town, and we were losing, and I said, look, this is going to take care of it. Little flag's going to come up, and they're going to tell you if you got a commode that's running 24/7. First time it happened was the Methodist church here. Called me and said, well, you got a leak. Because it's happening between 2 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock. Well, we don't have anybody over at that church during that time. Went in, found a flapper that was rotten and straight up. I can't sell the same thing anymore until I know that it's working. And I know I had 2 problems within 3 years. One at home and one here. That wasn't a big one, but the one at the house was. So I just wanted to see where we were. These things come up. And that's why it was important to me to get some of these things at another meeting. I'm kind of disappointed that we don't have more department heads here, like Parks and Rec and stuff, so they can tell us about the fields and stuff coming up. So we
Well,
don't
normally-
have to spend that
We can
time.
tell you about that, 'cause Tim and I are the ones that are bidding that.
So you're Parks and Rec now, huh? Wow.
Well, I do all procurement, so we're bidding out all that stuff, so we
Okay.
can tell you what's going on at the park. But let me go back to the leak thing. Since you've come off the board, we have prepay now. And prepay you don't have to have prepay, to be in that system as well. We can sign you up for that system, and that will also give the customer access to what their usage looks like, water and electric. So that's another safe point for customers if they wanna be able to keep up with what they're doing. We can log you in as a non-prepaid customer, just as a user to the system, and you can keep up with your accounts on there as well. The thing about the leak detection report is it has to be pulled by an individual, and usually it's customer service. And I've had a lot of turnover, unfortunately, in the last couple months. And so we're having to retrain people how to sort of look at these reports. And that's not an excuse, but, they are working through it, and they're getting better and better at it every day. But they're having to personally call all these customers that they are looking at the system and seeing all we get is a big report, and they have to go through every single one of them and look at their usage, so.
And the other issue that you had was an irrigation.
Right.
So a high volume usage out of the irrigation meter wouldn't jump out to the eye that was looking for that.
38,000 gallons. That's a lot of damn water.
You finished, Fred?
I am, Mayor, thank you.
Town manager, Ike?
I don't, Fred brought up the only thing I wanted to update you on about the vaccine mandate being vacated by the federal government, so that seems to be off your plate for now. Unless there are any other questions, that's all.
Mac?
I don't really have anything, I just, like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to sitting down and planning out what the future of Benson is, and we think we need to do that sooner rather than later.
Nothing to report.
Nothing for you? Ms. Holly?
No, I'm fine.
Will?
Well, of course. I just, I don't know as to, first of all, who does the agenda?
The town clerk does the agenda.
The town clerk
The
does
town-
the agenda?
The town
And
clerk
then, and then
does
it's
it with
approved by,
the mayor. This is his agenda.
Wait a minute now.
you're not doing the
The
agenda?
town clerk
sir.
don't do the agenda.
Well, she puts
She
it together.
prints the agenda. But the department heads tell Kim what they want on what needs to be put on, and they work that out along with the backup stuff. And then we sit down and look at it. And
We sit down.
usually Kim and I, and Fred can if he wants to, but I think he dollied that to Kim.
Yeah, but I don't understand that. The town manager has always been a part of the agenda when
Yeah.
you sit down and come up with these things. I mean, he's done a hell of a report here that I looked over last week, and there's still some questions that I've got I need some answers to. It's like the Mingo interceptor. Okay, we've asked how much and what priority is that, and what it's going to bring back to us.
I think we can give you that if there's a couple of things that Tim's still got to work out. But Tim knows what the interceptor is and what it's gonna cost and why we have it.
Okay, and what meeting? Y'all sit down and meet with all the engineers about the projects coming up Friday, both engineer firms. And y'all sit down and you look at this. At what point does this board find out? There was a lot of questions at our last meeting, and from everybody, and it's not a top secret anything. We need to know about the projects and where we are, and is that going to cost us $4 million? Is it going to cost us $24 million to get it done? And then it had to be done. It needed to have been done 5 years ago. So it's nothing that we're doing for PGI or Berry Plastics. It's something that had to be done anyway. But is it going to take care of Berry Plastics? Is it going to take care of Dale Parker? Is it going to take care of everything else that may come through and send it to our sewer plant?
If I may, Mayor, we will be discussing that during our retreat. We'll have a very broad overview and probably even some detail about the Mingo Interceptor and other priority programs that are being put in place. Let me sit back a little bit. I lost my thought. Oh, so for now, that project is estimated at about 4.9 million. That is going to be by way of grants. This, initially at least, is not part of the 22 million that a lot of folks are concerned about, how that's going to be spent. This was something that needed to be done
That's
way
fantastic.
before. And
I
so,
was told it was part of the grant. That is what I need to know. That's what Max is asking about.
Yeah.
When somebody calls him and we shoot from the hip,
yes, if I,
and don't know,
If
then
I-
they come back to us.
if
and
I
tell
can
us.
finish, there are, at my last count, there were 17 projects that were in the queue. There are 5 that are priority projects that our engineers laid out for us as what should be done first. That was part of what came out of, not part, but exactly what came out of the meeting with the engineers last week that Tim and the mayor put together, that we should sit down and talk with them about what we can expect. And so, if it helps, I do have some draft agenda for our annual retreat that I want you to take home. I want you to take a look at it and think about whether it is what you feel we should bring to you at the retreat. And if I can have these go out to you all, I appreciate that. Been very conservative about trying to limit a lot of information, but make some time for us to talk in detail as much as possible about especially our pending infrastructure projects. That is one of our main purposes for meeting this year. Also talk about our operating principles and priorities, and set goals for 22 and 23. Didn't want to really talk about it much this week, but I do want to follow up with a call to you individually to see if this meets your needs for the retreat. And you'll see that the pending infrastructure projects has a prominent place on the agenda. So I'll make sure that once this is approved, that our press gets it as well in advance. So I'll be talking with you all individually about that.
But Will, the statement you made is kind of a radical statement, because there's the meeting that was held with the engineers, good example. Tim decided to hold that meeting to kind of get them started thinking about priorities and how they stood on the things that they've been working on without money. And I don't know that there was any priorities put, because we've been going on the basis that we're going to have a meeting of the team, which includes the department heads, and then all this will be put together. And I go back 4 years when Tim first started putting on a presentation at the off-site meeting, and he started making us think about what we're doing. When you go to this meeting we're going to have next weekend, you've got to have some good information, and that don't mean that the board is being left out deliberately. It's because that it changes on a fairly regular basis of what we're going to do. We don't have access to that money, and that was the engineers' part, that they wanted to know how much trouble they would get in if they went ahead and did some things and it didn't meet the criteria that the state set up for this $22,700,000. So Tim, you add your thoughts.
I'll be glad to do the best I can. A lot of the monies that are being made available to us are ARPA money, direct appropriations monies, different monies that are being being made available through the state. There's some questions as to what the guidelines are and how you go about spending it. Some of the procurement guidelines that go along with it. We've got Glenn Fleming here with us tonight from Withers Ravenel. His team and the team at the Wooten Company have both been working through their resources to help us pin down the exact details to it. So it's kind of worked a little different. We sort of joked in our meeting that oftentimes when money's made available, they think about it and make the rules for so long that the money's gone before it's time to give it out. This time they sort of threw it out there without a lot of guidance on how to use it. So so what we're being very diligent about, being careful about, we're using our resources to tap into the people that know and that can answer the questions most accurately for us. Is we're doing this in a way that we avoid some type of clawback, some type of expenditure of money. These monies that they would come back through some type of audit process in 3, 4, 5 years and say, you didn't follow this guideline, you're going to have to pay this back. So we're wanting to be super careful because we've got access to money to work on more stuff than we probably ever have. And the last thing we want to do is go to work, spend it, and then find out that we owe a bunch of this money back or something like that. So we're being careful that we find out all the rules and guidelines with the different funding sources.
But now let me ask you, this didn't just happen Friday. Withers has been working on it. They got some grant money. Another company that we've had.
Wooten Company.
Wooten
Yes, sir.
Company that we've had forever. They've already been working on it now. When they sit down together, do they look at the total projects? We got water and sewer, infrastructure, we got possibly a water tower.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the project on Chicopee Road. Do they look at these things and say, look, we've done the work on this and we've got to have this and we can put the water tank off maybe, or we've got to have that, and this is, we've got $22 million to spend, and right now you've got a $60 million project.
The things that we've talked about and identified, number one is priorities, and it's sort of difficult to differentiate roughly 3 of them out of that number 1 slot. These 3 items all equally share the number 1 spot in regards to priorities, and that being wastewater treatment capacity, an additional water tower or additional water storage, and that being critical because we're currently borrowing capacity from 2 different entities. We have ownership of capacity out of a Johnson County tower. We have ownership of capacity out of the city of Dunn's storage as well. So for many years we have not had the storage capacity required by the state under our permit. So that's a number 1.
Station in Harnett County on the river. Will that help us? I mean, they were appropriated money to go ahead and put in a big new pumping station to get water from the Cape Fear. Is that going to help us with Dunn and the other facilities or not?
I'm not sure about the appropriation. I understood that their state appropriation was for wastewater treatment.
Yeah.
Not for water treatment, but for wastewater treatment.
Alan, what did you understand on Harnett County 2 weeks ago when he said the money was there and I've got this new system coming in?
And I may have misspoke. That was the city of Dunn that received an appropriation that I understand is for wastewater treatment. I'm not.
This is Lillington.
I'm not familiar with Harnett County.
This is Harnett County coming in too.
You know?
I can find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could.
When I
remember was them putting in another intake in the river.
Yeah,
Harnett County?
Harlan County.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but obviously
Go ahead.
that does have, potentially an impact on the amount of water we can get in under our current configuration, because we buy, about 10% of the water we sell comes out of, we buy it from Johnson County, but it actually comes out of the Lillington plant. It comes out of that plant in Lillington from Harnett County. So we're kind of the third party in the scenario. Harnett County pumps it out of the river, they treat it, they process it, and then they send it down the transmission line out of Harnett County into Johnson County on 27 coming in from the west, and that ultimately becomes Johnson County's water, and then they sell it to us, and we sell to our customers. And we sell, we're basically selling off of a transmission system. It's carrying water beyond our service area and servicing Johnson County as well, but we take some off of it and sell to our customers on the way.
Tim, our water and sewer, are we ahead enough to take care of the new things that are going to be here in the next, it may not be built in the next 12 months, but the land's bought, the money's spent, and they didn't spend that kind of money for that land
Right.
not to put houses on.
We're okay on our ability to serve water. For the past year, wastewater treatment has been a concern, because we exceeded the 80% ceiling that the state sets for you. And that being, we were treating more than 80% of our plant's capacity. We weren't spilling, we weren't discharging bad water. We had just reached 80% of our plant's capacity, which is where the state steps in and says, hey, you gotta start doing some work. You're running towards running over. So we've done that work. We've completed the engineering alternatives analysis. Twofold with that, we actually, we had a dry year, which helped us a good bit as well. We've tracked through this year to actually come in at about 68% of our capacity. So we made a large jump, like I think 16% in a year, which ran us past 80. We're dipping back below 80, actually lower than we were before we made that big jump.
But if we have another year where we got 6 months of constant rain like we did, then our capacity that's where it got up to 95% because of all the rain that we had.
82%.
82 is
82.
where we went to, but and we're making efforts to make improvements towards that as well. Glenn's with us, Ravenel, they're helping us with a pretty large sewer rehab project. That will dry up some of the water that gets into our system. We've got more work to do with our system. We've got an old sewer system. The investments in our infrastructure in the past decade or so have been mostly limited to water distribution. I think when did I destroy Main Street? 2 years ago?
2019.
Yeah. That was probably our first big stab at rehabbing some sewer in this town. That made some improvement, and the work that Withers Ravenel is working through right now with us, that actually picks up some of our worst infiltration areas. So we look forward to getting through that work, seeing that completed, because I think the next time we have a wet year, we won't be impacted as badly. But there's still a lot of work to do in the sewer system to reduce that impact that we see when we do have wet years.
Well, I think you're gonna see all what he's talking about at the meeting this weekend in a little more detail.
And
What
and
meeting
if I
this weekend?
I don't know if you know.
Next weekend.
And if I have an understanding of what exactly what is wanting there, I'll be glad to try to present it in a way that answers questions.
Well, I don't know who the cats were that you hired to do the road. We went from 1 week on Main and 50 and 301. We went from 1 week to 2 days, and those guys hustled, and that was some kind of job that they did.
Thank you for saying that. I was very proud of the work that they did. We had some really good people involved. We had a little bit of luck on our side. And,
You had some unlucky people. The guy with the transfer truck that clipped up.
yes, we did lose one signal pole in the process, and we were almost in the clear before that happened. So you can't go through an emergency repair like that without something going wrong. I guess.
Buddy, good
Those
job.
couple of days,
Yeah.
it was wonderful. They finished so fast, but it made me realize what if we don't handle the growth right, we're going to experience that every day, which was a mess. You know, it was really
Right.
tough. The thing that I'm hoping for, and I may be stating the obvious, but I want to I need you guys to make a guide for dummies on what do we need, what's it for, what's it going to bring, what's the advantage of it, what's the cost, and what are we going to get out of it. And we need to make sure that we're all on the same page about where we think, does this entity, does it make more business sense for businesses coming, or more houses, or what's the reason, or is it just make a prettier mailbox fix all the mailbox? You know, we need to understand, I think we need to understand it better, and I think the citizens of Benson need to understand it better.
Okay.
So we'll be working on that for you all, commissioners.
Thanks, Tim.
And we'll talk a bit more.
Thank you.
Anything else? One thing I wanna say, there's a guy that lives over in Willow Chase that criticizes the town, I think, about every week about something. And I got an email from him.
Is it deep?
You know where they live in Willow Chase.
It's deep.
I got an email from him, and it started off, I've been through snow, and I lived in Wisconsin, and it always is where people have snow, they're prepared for it. But I want to tell the town of Benson and the people that did the work that the roads and the town was in much better shape than Wisconsin does. I didn't even know they had snow, but we really appreciate what they did on this snowstorm we had. So Tim, I forwarded the email to you so you can see it, but that was uplifting that there was something good said about something from him. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thanks.